in sharp contrast to all other psychological models, the method of reasoning used to investigate the causes of human behavior I used was deductive. Hi, I'm research psychologist Roger Follansbee. Let's talk about logic and structured psychology. When I discovered what I call the structure, which is a logical system that guides the way we think, feel, and behave, I first began with the exploration of the behavior of existence itself. Then, I eventually narrowed my focus to examining what I was really interested in: we human beings. Here, I was trying to understand why we thought, felt, and did the things we did. What I finally discovered, I've called structured psychology. And with the exception of neuroscience, I'd say that structured psychology marked the very first time that the scientific method was used to examine human psychology. And what scientific method did I use? I used logic. And you may ask, what kind of logic I used? That's a good question. In reality, there are two distinct logical formats used in all scientific discovery. The first and least accurate we call inductive logic. The second and far more exact mode of reasoning we call deductive logic. Deductive logic, you could say, is the gold standard of scientific research. And it's what I use in my study and practice of structured psychology. And why didn't I use inductive logic? Well, let's look at inductive logic for a minute. Inductive logic is rooted in the frequency of an observed occurrence. For example, one might notice that 87% of the time, and at 7:30 in the morning, there are traffic jams in the city of Chicago. Because of this observation, one might state that there will almost always be a traffic jam somewhere in Chicago in or around 7:30 a.m. every morning. This conclusion, however, will only be probable, but not certain. Inductive logic is a type of logic that deals with probabilities rather than facts. Deductive logic also starts with an observable event. But in contrast to inductive reasoning, the event in question must always take place 100% of the time. For example, one might notice that all living things that are mortal 100% of the time cease to exist. This means that Jerry's pet mouse, the king of Morocco, and the wife of Mary's local baker will, at some point, live no longer. And if you say that, you'll know that your declaration will always be true. As stated before, in sharp contrast to all other psychological models, the method of reasoning used to investigate the causes of human behavior I used was deductive. This in order to ensure the accuracy of that reasoning's findings, which, in the case of structured psychology, were as follows. The first discovery that I made found that all living things had to be relational 100% of the time. And if they weren't, those things could not exist. This conclusion was reached through the observation that nothing could exist alone. This fact indicated that all existing things were either in some perceptive way in relationship with the world around them, or they couldn't exist at all. Next, I saw that 100% of the time, either an existing object continued to exist, or it couldn't exist any longer. From that fact, I concluded that 100% of the time, there was an innate, psychologically driven need in all living things to continue being what they were. And thirdly, when the human mind is in relationship with the world around it, 100% of the objects of its relationships must provide some level of relational confirmation. And that, back to the subject, the human. Or it couldn't be affirmed that a relationship had taken place at all. From these deductively acquired observations, a structure of life was observed, in which 100% of the time we had to be relational, continuing, and in need of relational confirmation. Or those existing things, like us, could exist no longer. Because structured psychology is the result of deductive reasoning, it would be correct to say that structured psychology was not a science of probability, but rather a fact of life, and therefore the necessary method one should use to understand human behavior. So, if you're interested in understanding yourself and others with more clarity, accuracy, and certainty, please consider reading my book, It's Not Your Fault. It's there where I discover the structure that guides us and its logical ways. Thank you for watching.
Understand why we all think, feel, and do the things we do. Read It's Not Your Fault by Roger Stolensby. Link in the comments below.